All right, welcome to this explainer. So if you're working towards your PCI Level 1 or 2 certification, there's a concept you absolutely 100% have to master, and that's product tolerances. We're going to break down exactly what they are using the TM-101 manual as our guide and really get into why they are so critical for every single piece of precast you'll inspect. Okay, let's just jump right in with a scenario that every single QC tech is trying to prevent. Picture this. A massive multi-ton panel shows up on site. The crane is there, the crew is ready to go, and it doesn't fit. It's off by just 1 inch. That tiny inch could trigger a cascade of problems. Costly delays, on-site modifications, or worst case scenario, the piece gets rejected entirely. The stakes are incredibly high. And that really gets to the heart of the challenge in precast manufacturing. We start with these super precise design drawings, right? But then we have to build them in the real world where nothing is ever perfectly perfect. So the real puzzle, the real skill, is managing that inevitable gap between the blueprint and the final physical product. And here's the key thing to remember. You can't eliminate every tiny variation. It's just not possible when you're dealing with things like concrete, steel, and fluctuating temperatures. So the goal isn't this impossible idea of perfection. The goal is control. It's about managing those variations and keeping them within strict, known limits. So how do we do that? Well, that is exactly where the concept of tolerance comes in. It's not just a helpful guideline, it's the engineered, systematic solution to that whole problem of variation. It's the system that makes sure every single piece of that giant construction puzzle is going to fit together exactly as it should out in the field. The official definition you'll find in TM-101 calls it a specified permissible variation. So what does that actually mean? Think of tolerances as the official rulebook for a product. They spell out the acceptable plus or minus range for every important measurement, ensuring that even with those small natural variations, every piece will connect and perform exactly the way the engineers designed it to. Now, tolerances aren't just one big thing. They're broken down into 3 main categories. You've got your erection and interfacing tolerances, which are super important for the crew on the job site, but for us as quality control personnel in the plant, our focus is laser sharp on that first one, product tolerances. Because let's be honest, if the product isn't right when it leaves our yard, nothing else matters. It all starts with us. Okay, so when we talk about checking product tolerances, what are we actually measuring? What are the specific things you're looking for with your tape measure out on the production floor? And believe me, the list is pretty long. We are measuring everything from the big picture stuff, like the overall length and width of a giant panel, all the way down to the tiny details, like making sure a single steel embed is in the exact right spot. Every single one of these dimensions has its own specific allowable tolerance that we have to check and verify. Now, to get good at controlling these variations, you have to know where they're coming from. You've got to be a bit of a detective, right? You need to trace the issue back to its source. So let's take a look at the usual suspects when it comes to things changing dimensionally. According to TM-101, there are 5 main culprits we need to keep a close eye on. First, the forms themselves, then the powerful forces from pre-stressing. After that, you've got 3 things that are just inherent to concrete itself: shrinkage as it cures, long-term creep when it's under load, and finally, simple temperature changes. Any one of these can throw off a measurement. It all starts with the forms. I mean, this is just common sense. If your form is warped or isn't perfectly square, guess what? Your product is going to be warped and not perfectly square. It's a direct transfer. That's why the rule is so clear. Your forms have to be built to an even tighter tolerance than the final product. Next up is pre-stressing, and this one is a big deal. You are applying thousands and thousands of pounds of force to those steel strands, and when you release that energy into the concrete, the member literally reacts. It's going to get a little shorter, it's going to bow upwards into a camber, and the ends might even rotate a bit. These aren't mistakes, they're predictable results of physics that we have to account for and keep within tolerance. And you can never, ever forget about temperature. It might seem like a small thing, but look at this. That long double T sitting out in the yard, it will physically be a little bit shorter on a cool morning than it will be on a hot summer afternoon. It's just thermal expansion and contraction, and it has to be factored into our measurements. So let's bring this all home. We've talked about what tolerances are, and we know what causes all these variations. But now, let's talk about the payoff. Why is being this strict about measurements so completely non-negotiable for any plant that wants to be PCI certified? Being out of tolerance is never a small thing. From an economic standpoint, it can blow up a project's budget. Functionally, it can mess with connections and even compromise the safety of the structure. Aesthetically, it just looks bad. You get ugly joints and misaligned panels. And for us, professionally, it puts our plant's PCI certification, our badge of quality, at risk. So, the most important thing to take away from all this is that your role as an inspector out there with that tape measure is absolutely fundamental to the whole quality system. You are the guardian. You are the one ensuring compliance, product quality, and ultimately, your plant's reputation. All right, a quick knowledge check. Let's really connect the dots here. What's the role of product tolerances when it comes to certification? Well, it's simple. Consistently meeting those tolerances is the proof of a working quality system. It's the physical, measurable evidence that lets a plant earn and keep its PCIA certification. And second, what are those real-world consequences when we get it wrong? You have to keep these things front and center: the massive economic costs, the serious functional and safety risks, the poor appearance of the final building, and the potential loss of that all-important certification. Knowing those stakes is what separates a good inspector from a great one. I think this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Precision isn't perfection. It's perfectly managed imperfection. At the end of the day, that is the best way to think about what we do. Our goal is not to create some magical, flawless product, because that's impossible. Our goal is to become experts at managing the natural, inevitable imperfections of manufacturing to create a predictable, reliable, and high-quality product. That is the true essence of quality control.